This one's been a long time coming. We're going to do Esther by Phish, which is just this unbelievably intricate, theatrical, weird, psychedelic, silly song. It's one of the songs that really totally sold me on the band when I picked up my sister's cassette tape of Jinta back in like 1997 when I was in high school. And it's a song I absolutely love. It's crazy complicated, but it's built out of these discrete sections, and we're going to learn them, and then we're going to talk about how they fit together. Because of the way that my notes on this song are structured, and because it's not really a song that has a jam component or live versions that are really worth visiting. It's not going to be worth our time to do sort of a play along part like I usually do in these videos. I think what we're just going to do is talk about how this song is built, and you can start to tinker around with it. Just the way these chords are structured, the way they move is super interesting, and I think you're going to find it really valuable just to get in there and look at how a piece of music like this comes together. Because I find it absolutely fascinating, 20-some-odd-year-old composer Trey at his best. Speaking of, I'm going to see Trey with the Boston Pops at Tanglewood on Saturday, and I'm super excited about it. So if you're going, maybe I'll see you there. All right, so this song is in F. And it starts with that circus riff that I think a lot of us have probably just found naturally tinkering around on the piano. So you start on F and you go down by half steps. Easy enough. And then it's built on F, but it's not a normal F chord. It's an F over C. And then that root note of it keeps moving. So as we pass through certain chords, you're going to look at this and you're going to be like, well, that's a D minor chord, but he's calling it an F chord. I think it's more helpful to conceptualize these chords as it's always an F chord and the root note of it's moving. And let me get into it and you'll see what I'm talking about. So the song before the lyrics come in is in kind of a holding pattern of C in your left hand and then an F chord in its second inversion with your right, so it's C, F, and A. And then the C moves up to C sharp, both with your left hand and right hand, and then it goes up to D, and then back down, and the F and the A don't move. So it's sort of that F over C sharp, F over D, and it goes back down. And it always has this pa feel, where you hit the root note, and then you hit the F and the A, so it's... As soon as the singing starts, this pattern gets more complicated, and I'll walk you through it. It was late one fall night at a fairground near town when Esther first saw the Armenian man who groveled toward her and stood by her side with a bucket that swung in his hand. Something like that. So what that is it's that F over C sharp, F over D. Then it goes up again, so it's F over D sharp, and then it becomes F over D again, F over C sharp again, back down to F over C, and then the F and the A come down to make a C major chord, and you're still keeping that pa with the root and then the third and the fifth on top of it. Then you move the whole thing up to a D minor chord, and then this D minor chord is going to become a B flat major chord over D. So to accomplish that, we're only moving one note. So our D minor chord is D, F, and A, and our B flat major chord is going to be B flat, D, and F. So if I move the A up to B flat, there I've got it. And then we move up to a C over E. And you see the chords are kind of inverted to make the pa work, so that root note is always the and then the rest of the chord is the pa. I'm not sure if this is a good way of explaining it, but this is the way my brain works, and my brain is weird. So it's really like not that many chords, and they're dancing around the way that this root motion is going, like chromatically. So that's sort of simple enough, and that carries us through quite a few verses. While we're on this section of the song, I want to point out one thing. So we've got our C, our F over C, F over C sharp, F over D, F over D sharp. When you come back down to this F over D, for a long time I've had this as B flat over D, like B flat major. And same with the B flat major, or it becomes B flat minor over D flat. But as I listen to the song, I think that's not right. I think it still is that F shape. But play around with it because it sounds really nice. And I'm not sure, because I haven't listened carefully enough, as to whether it comes into play using that B flat variation in other parts of the song. But at least in this part is pretty clearly the F shape. So let me play through that pattern one more time before we move on to the next one, because we have to talk about how to transition out of it. And I'm going to use the verse where it pivots to talk about that pivot. And he stared, looking down at the innocent girl. She stared at the bucket, bewildered. He lifted the doll for the young girl to see, and a giant smile grew on his face. And that's how we move on to the next section. So with the line, giant smile grew on his face, where that happens is he lifted the doll, so the C chord, for the young girl. So we go to the D minor chord to C. We go up to that B flat major over D. Giant smile grew on his face. And we go D flat major, which is D flat, F, and A flat. And then we go up to E flat major. And now we're on the second chord pattern, which is a really cool chord pattern. She saw the doll's eyes and she couldn't resist. And she thanked the man quickly and ran to the church where she lay. And a hush filled the chapel and the people looked to me. So anyways, that second section, giant smile grew on his face. Now we're going to an A flat major chord. And you can still do that sort of pa motion. For me here, it gets a little looser, and I do it more between my left hand and right hand. And where a lot of the chord patterns stay the same in this song, but that pa kind of gets less accented as we go through it. But at the beginning, where it's that cheesy organ sound and it's the circus feel, that feel is really prominent, but it goes away as we go through the song, even though we're going to be using the same chord patterns. So this chord pattern is an A flat major. So it's A flat, C, and E flat. And then you just bring the root of it up and leave the C and E flat in place to make an A diminished chord. So it's A, C, and E flat. And then you come up with the whole frame of it to make a B flat minor chord. So it's B flat, D flat, and F. And then it resolves to E flat major. So it's E flat, G, and B flat. Now it becomes a D diminished chord. D, F, and A flat. The root comes down a half step to be a D flat major chord. D flat, F, and A flat. And then B flat minor. B flat, D flat, and F, and then E flat. And that E flat brings you back around to the A flat. So this pattern can kind of loop like that. I'm going to walk through it again. A flat, A diminished, B flat, minor, E flat major, D diminished, D flat major, B flat minor, E flat. And the way this one pivots out is... let's see. And she burst through the doorway with puppet held high, and a hush filled the chapel, and the people looked to me. So you skip the E flat chord at the end of it. It goes straight from that B flat minor, that's part of our pattern, to F minor. And the pa is back. So now we're in F minor when we were previously in F major. And we have another one of these F shapes where the root is moving. I'm going to play it right here so you can kind of see it. I think you can. That F minor thing of the people looked mean is an F minor chord, and we're gonna keep moving the root note. If you notice, there's a theme here where we move the root notes a lot, where the chord stays the same over it, and that's a lot of the where the motion in this song comes from. So we have F minor over E, so you have the E, A flat, and C, and then you go down one more time to the E flat, so it's E flat, A flat, and C, which is also an A flat major chord, but again, I'm going to call it an F minor over E flat because that's the motion. We're leaving these two notes in place from our F chord and we're just moving the root. And then the whole thing steps down to become an E minor, E, G, and B, and then you do the same motion, so it becomes E minor over E flat, E minor over D, E minor over E flat, and then when it pivots out, just bring your left hand up to that E, hit sitting by itself, and then we're going to land on a D major chord. And Trey has these lovely little like that. And this is another one. This is very reminiscent of the Lizards, the way this chord pattern works, and it's super cool. So now we've landed on that D chord, the very pretty D. And the way this chord pattern works is it's one of those very similar, if you watch the Lizards video, it's a lot like that, where the left hand is moving chromatically and the chord pattern is moving over it in these really cool ways. So let me walk you through it. Esther tried in vain to pacify the mob, quibble grew to spat, then to wrangle, then to brawl. The frenzied congregation struggled desperately to fetch the pretty puppet snugly nestled deep in Esther's leather sack. Oh man, I love this stuff so much. This is so fun. So we have a D chord there. Again, we're at the beginning of this section. Esther tried in vain. And then it becomes an A chord over C sharp. So it's A major, A, C sharp, E, and A. With a C sharp in your left hand. Then it becomes a C major chord, C, E, and G, with C in your left hand. Now we're going to put a B in your left hand with a G chord over it, G, B, D, over B. Now we go to a B flat major chord, which is B flat, D, and F. And then the left hand's going to go to A with a D major chord over it. So it's D, F sharp, and A. And then E major over G sharp. So my left hand's on G sharp. And my right hand is making an E major chord. E, G sharp, B. Now we go to a G minor chord. So it's G, B flat, and D. Now the root note's going down to F sharp. And it's a D major chord. D, F sharp, A. G major. G, B, D, E over G sharp, again, E, G sharp, B, and then it's an A chord, and then it becomes an A7 chord, an A6 chord, so the A7 is, so we have an A chord, then the A in my right hand is going to move to G to make it an A7, and then we're going to take the G down to an F sharp to make it a C chord, and it goes back to a normal A chord, and then you have this D minor arpeggio. So you got all that? So the D minor, it's a D minor 7 arpeggio. The notes in that are D, F, A, and C. Let me think of it. Yeah, so it sort of starts with a quick turnaround. So I'm going F, D, F, A, C, F, A, C, D, A, C, D, F, C, D, F, A, D, F, C, A, F, A, C, D. And that's about where it ends. Now we're going to go back to part 1, our sort of pa, F chords, but we're going to play them without so much pa, pas. Church. So this is through the window of the church, a storm began to rage, and Esther knew the time had come to flee. She scurried down the hallway towards the doorway in the distance, and out into the rainstorm where she felt she would be free. But the wind was blowing harder, and her skirt began to billow, and finally her feet began to lift. Oh, that's an F chord, not a C chord. She rose above the houses and the people in the chimneys, and Esther and the Saul were set adrift. And here's that transition again with the D flat major and the E flat major chord. And then we move back into the second part. So again, we're recycling these parts again, and they get more flying, flowy feeling rather than pa circus feeling. So now we're on that A flat. This is that second part. With the earth far below them, they tumble and glide, soaring and turning, suspended on through the clouds. So again, that's that second part is the A flat, A diminished, B flat minor, E flat, D diminished, D flat, B flat minor, E flat. And then when you get to clouds, we have a new section, sort of the flying section, which is also like a game henge narration section. And to do that, we're just going to step up from the E flat chord that you're on to an E major chord. So you have the E major, which is E, G sharp, and B, and you can sort of run it down like an arpeggio like that. It's very very pretty. Now we make it an E minor by taking the G sharp down to a G. Then we're going to take the whole thing up to be an F sharp minor. So it's F sharp, A, and C sharp. And again, I'm sort of moving the whole frame together so I can keep that arpeggio intact. Now we're going to make it major by taking the A up to A sharp. And then it goes to a B chord. And then there's this arpeggio that's really hard to parse out because the guitar and the piano do it in a staggered way, and it's really hard to hear exactly what it is. I'm using, and this is like leading into that piano and guitar interplay section. I'm using a B minor 7 arpeggio, like. Which I think will serve. If you have a better take on it, please shoot me a message. I would love to hear it, because I listened to it a bunch of times and couldn't quite piece it out. So the B minor 7 arpeggio is B, D, F sharp, A, and just up and down those notes. And then we get to this guitar and piano interplay section that's really just built on the chord sections we already know. So it'd be like. So again, that's over the first section, the F major stuff. So we know these chords by now. And Page's line there, I'll play it out for you. It starts on C, and then goes down to A, and then it goes up to D. And then we go all the way up to G, A, F, and then we come down to C, and then it's A sharp, C, and then we go from C up to G, and then it's E, F, G, G, F, 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 D, E, F, F, E, E, and that repeats, and that's what goes over the. How much I've practiced this. And it goes by super fast in the recording, but those are the notes. And then after that section, what we get is we move on to the second part, that A flat part. And the piano part over that is... There it is. So it's A flat to E flat, G to E flat, F to D flat, F, E flat, and then it's C, B flat, A flat, F, F, E flat, C, B flat, D flat, C, D flat, E flat. And that goes through twice again, and the interlock with the guitar part on the recording is super cool. They're doing this sort of interlocking timing, but if you want to skate by this without thinking about it too hard, just use those two chord patterns, and you can arpeggiate them. And if you're doing like a solo piano arrangement of this song, out on that E chord with the game henge narration. And I'll just take a quick moment to say that I tend not to instruct a lot by slavishly transposing other people's solos. I know this is a composed section and I wanted to get the notes on it, but I also think it's really valuable as a player to learn how you would parse out the right feel from the chords that you're given. So when I just played through it right there, I was just trying to arpeggiate and noodle on these chords in ways that would work if I was approaching this from a blank slate. So I don't spend a ton of time like picking Page McConnell's parts to pieces and reconstructing them exactly. I kind of like to just look at what he had to work with and how I might approach that as a player, because I'm a very different player in a lot of ways. So that's where I'm coming from with sections like that. So now we're on our nice E major chord with the game henge narration. So we just did that. It goes to E minor, up to F sharp minor. We've almost got all the pieces of the song. We're in pretty good shape. F sharp major and then B major, B, D sharp, and F sharp. And now we're coming out of this part. She began to tumble earthward till she landed in the nasty part of town. And this part's very similar to other parts we've done. So we have an E minor chord, E, G, and B, and the E is going down to E flat and down to D and then back up. So the G and B stay in place. He glanced about the village, sure to find the evil men who rob and pillage. And on pillage, it moves up to an F minor with the same principle. So F, A flat, and C. And then the F moves down to E flat, and back up. And then it goes up one more time to F sharp minor, and which goes down to F sharp minor over F, and then over E, and then back up, and then it goes back down to E again. So I'm going to go through the whole pattern with the words that come there. Feeling quite outnumbered, Esther hid behind a nearby pile of lumber where she waited for the dawn. 'Cause it would have been a blunder to succumb to a hoodlum on the prowl. Goes back to E minor. And then to come out of this, so we're at our E minor over D. We're going to do an A major chord. A, C sharp, and E. Here we go. We're on a D chord now because we're doing section 3. Do you remember which one is section 3? section 3 is the one that starts on D, which is why we had that A. When the morning came, she wandered through the streets along the chilly lake that lay beside the town, and lost a peaceful moment when she thought she heard a sound. It was an angry mob of joggers coming up to knock her down. So I'm going to talk through those quick, but you can go back to grab the exact or the more detailed walkthrough earlier. So it's D, A over C sharp, C, G over B, B flat, D over A, E over G sharp, G minor, D over F sharp, G, E over G sharp, A, A7, A6, A, D minor arpeggio. And that brings us back to part 1, where as Esther stood and shook her head, the joggers were approaching. She knew she had no choice left but to swim. As the frosty water sank its bitter teeth into her hide, she tried to slide the heavy clothing from her skin. I'm not going to bother walking through these chords in detail because we've done them quite a few times now. Naked now, she made her way towards the shore when suddenly she felt a tiny tugging at her toe. And the puppet she'd forgotten wrapped its tiny little arms around her ankle, and it wouldn't let her go. And now we have the pivot from section 1 to section 2, which is that D flat major, E flat major, and the next part is that second section that we've done a few times. The waves seemed to open and swallow her whole as the doll pulled her down to the eerie green deep, and the sound of the laughing old man filled her ears. She drifted away to a tranquil and motionless sleep. So that section 2 again is A flat, A diminished, B flat minor, E flat, D diminished, D flat major, B flat minor, E flat. You repeat that twice. And we come out on the E chord, so we're going back to Gamehenge narration tone, which is that E major, E minor, F sharp minor, F sharp major, B. And Trey's outro solo is over that, so it's like. On an E major chord, E, G sharp, and B. That is the whole song. It's such a cool song. I love that song to death. Maybe I should have attempted to play through, but I think I'm going to leave it at that. Those are all the pieces, and if you are maybe more patient or have more free time than I do, you can pick up all the pieces and play through it at speed alongside the recording. But I think it's so much fun to take songs like that and figure them out. I've been hearing from a lot of you all with requests and ideas, and I'm going to do a gear rundown video really soon. I'm so glad that you're all out there upping your game as piano players and learning about this music that is so cool. It makes me so happy to hear from you, so please drop me a line. And if anyone's up for Zoom lessons or things like that, I have more room in my schedule than I have previously, so you can drop me a line about that as well, and I would love to talk to you and see if it's something that might work for your situation. I got a tip jar down in the description. Go check it out. And if you like what I do and you're interested in me as a musician, I have a band called Andrew North and the Rangers. We have a sister YouTube channel that has a bunch of shows on it, so feel free to check that out too. But anyways, I'm just happy you're out there making music. I'm so glad you found this channel, and I love hearing from y'all. Y'all are beautiful, amazing people, and let's keep making music together. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.